And welcome back, people, to another Film Friday. Last time we checked in on Rocky Balboa in the biggest hit in the franchise with Rocky IV. Now, let's continue the story in the most hated film in the Rocky saga. And you may be surprised what I have to say about this film. So let's waste no time and dive into the film all fans seem to dislike, including its own creator, Sylvester Stallone. This is Rocky V. And well, this is going to be an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen, because as much as people don't want to believe this, I truly love this film. And yes, it does have its issues, but just hear me out. During this review, I'm going to get into some deep details and why I truly like this film. So as always, the film recaps the events of the last film, with Bill Conti's iconic Rocky theme returning, along with the original director of the first Rocky film himself, John Avildsen. The film, unlike all other Rocky films, maybe besides the original, this one starts off very, very dark. Balboa, seen here cooling off after his bout with Drago. He is clearly suffering from the fight. His hands shaking, body trembling. He asks Duke to get Adrian. This being the first time we see the damage that comes from the brutal fights that Balboa has been a part of. Adrian fears for Rocky, but all he wants to do is return home, to be with their son. So Rocky and crew arrive back home and greeted by their son, and okay, so either he's had a huge growth spurt or he's been on some of Drago's steroids. And it's here, people, I need to pause and explain one of the biggest issues in the film. Rocky's son's aged, this time played by Stallone's own real-life son, Sage Stallone. So in Rocky IV, when they leave for Russia, we see that Rocky's son looks no older than 6, maybe 7 at best. So I need to address this, so let's talk about the time frame. In Rocky I, he states he is 30 years old. Then Rocky II, it takes place 11 months old. In the third film, it's clearly stated he is 35 years old, making it a 4-year gap. Now here's where it gets tricky. Rocky IV. So many believe because of the Creed and Balboa sparring match, the film takes place directly after the third film. But I can say here, no it doesn't. And you want proof? Okay. Rocky says to Adrian, it's almost been 9 years since you've been married to me. So wait, 9 years? Didn't I just say that Rocky III takes place 5 years after the original? Meaning there is at least a 4-year gap between the third film and the fourth film, justifying the fact that Rocky Jr. is at least roughly 8 years of age. And now to explain the timeline between Rocky IV itself, there's really no explanation. We know Apollo takes the fight with Drago, so a few months of training and promoting the fight. Then of course Balboa fights Drago. Once again, let's say 3 months to training and promoting the fight. So the fourth film itself could take place over 6 months to even 12 months, making Rocky Jr.'s age at least 9 years old. Or hell, it's just a total screw up. But hey, let's move on. Rocky greets his son and they all return home, to which they either return to the wrong house or it's a different place altogether. And yeah, I can't explain this one. It's either a mistake or it's a completely different filming location. He discovers while in Russia, Paulie had him sign away his money to a crooked tax agent. And in doing so, Rocky has lost everything. All he had fought for, all the money, the cars, even that damn robot, it's all gone. Here lies the strength of the film. It grounds Rocky again and brings everything back into reality. The film itself is way ahead of its time, as it's the first time that I personally can remember a franchise breaking down its own hero. And now these days, it's considered normal, with films such as Logan, The Dark Knight Rises, just to name a few. Balboa, knowing he will lose everything, has no other choice but to return to the ring for one last time, taking the bout between himself and upcoming boxing champ Union Kane, promoted by the Don King wannabe George Washington Duke. A twisted, untrustworthy promoter. Adrian begs him not to fight anymore after witnessing his issues after the bout with Drago, and asks him at least to have medical testing before making a rash decision, to which he agrees. And now you're talking about breaking your hero down. Not only is Rocky's fortune gone, but now he is given the news due to all the brutal blows to the head, he has suffered irreversible brain trauma. I have to say, I love this scene, as now we see Rocky has hit his lowest point ever in the whole franchise. Adrian consoles him, saying she doesn't care about the money or the house, but his own well-being. Forced to sell off the house and most of what he owns, Rocky feels that he has failed them, and most of all his son. He explores through his old relics from his past and comes across the iconic black hat and leather jacket, which made him so relatable to us all. Returning to his old hangouts, he comes across the one place he always felt at home, Mickey's old gym, now being the one thing he still owns. This leads to one of the best scenes, not in just the film, but the whole franchise. We see the return of a familiar figure, Mickey. As in a flashback, Rocky has this beautiful heart-to-heart with his former trainer, and it's just so heartwarming. Say whatever you want about this film, but no one can dispute the power of seeing Mickey and Rocky together again. Mickey hands over to Rocky a cufflink once given to him by the great Rocky Marciano, telling him anytime he feels hurt, this is going to be like an angel sitting on his shoulder, telling him to get up, you son of a bitch, cause Mickey loves you. Still gives me tingles just thinking about this scene. Balboa and family return to the old neighborhood, as Paulie's still owning his old house. And for those who really hate this film, let me jump in and say, have you seen the director's cut that's online? It adds a few scenes like this, unseen in the original film, where Adrian consoles Rocky about him feeling like he has failed them. Keeping in scenes like this, I personally felt would have helped the fanbase actually like this film. He, along with Paulie, reopens Mickey's gym as Adrian returns to the very same pet shop she worked in, so it's much the same, going back to where they all began. And once again, the annoying George Washington Duke pesters Rocky to rethink his retirement, that he can manage to have Rocky's medical records overlooked if he is just to take one final payday against his upcoming fighter. As Rocky thinks long and hard, it isn't long before Adrian jumps in, telling Duke to leave them alone. Their son attends Rocky's old school, which, going from the rich lifestyle he was used to now this run-down slums where his father began, I find it interesting. But it isn't long before he starts to get picked on for being the son of the famous Italian stallion, and has the living shit beaten out of him. During all this, a young man enters Rocky's life, going by the name of Tommy Gunn, played by real-life former heavyweight slugger himself, Tommy the Duke Morrison. And in a small piece of trivia, people, yes, he was in fact related to cowboy icon himself, John Wayne. Now, Tommy Morrison gets a lot of shit for his acting, and I can truly say I don't understand. He plays the role of Tommy Gunn perfectly. A young, hungry warrior that Rocky sees much of himself in, Tommy literally lives off the streets, but he can sure pack a punch, as he blows away sparring partners with ease. Paulie, straight away, he sees the potential in Tommy Gunn, but Balboa sees a kid on the edge. Tommy asks Rocky to train him and even be his manager, and after much persistence, he finally agrees and even takes Tommy Gunn into his own home. Here lies another great strength of this film. Unlike the others, the big bad isn't just some new opponent, it's a crooked promoter, and believe it or not, Rocky himself is a villain. He neglects his own son and family in favor of helping out Tommy. He sees his chance to regain respect and maybe even regain the title himself, living through the eyes of this young brass fighter. Both men become tighter and closer than ever as Rocky begins to lose focus on the things most important to him in his life, his own family. Even unfazed by his son being bullied, Rocky's sole focus is guiding his young pupil to glory. It isn't long before Tommy rises up the ranks, over the course of several months, catching the keen eye of George Washington Duke. The trap is now set. If he can't get Balboa, he will get his apprentice and use him to draw Rocky out of retirement. Duke slivers his way into Tommy's life, telling him if he wants the title and those big paydays, only he has the connections to give him a shot at the title. Rocky and family are setting up for Christmas when finally his own son is unable to hold back anymore. He tells his own father that he has betrayed them all, especially after seeing Rocky is planning to give Tommy the beloved necklace once given to him by Mickey, walking away from his father as Tommy arrives with Duke in company. Tommy tells Rocky he plans to sign with Duke as he tries to warn Tommy of people like Duke who are vampires that will live off the blood of him, and when they have no more use of him he would throw Tommy aside. But he ignores this and speeds off into the night. The man Rocky thought was once like him is now corrupted, and I love this angle. Tommy isn't a villain, he is a kid much like Rocky. He wanted respect, he wanted his own legacy and make a name for himself, but he wanted it too soon, too early. It's kind of like the dark side, easier and more seductive. Tommy resembles Anakin's fall from grace, choosing the easy path of power over the ones he once loved. In one of my all-time favourite scenes, and by far my most favourite scene of Adrian, she consoles Rocky and tries to see why this means so much to him. He explains Tommy was the way to gain respect back for himself, and when Tommy was winning, he was winning. And how could anyone respect him anymore? Adrian tells him in one of the greatest and most underrated speeches in the whole franchise, "All of those beatings you took in the ring, I took them with you," reminding us the pain she had to suffer through all the fights Rocky had. All those fighters you beat in the ring, you beat them with heart, not muscle. It's what Mickey knew and what made you and Mickey so special. But if you want to pass this on, pass it on to our son. And in one final blow tells him he is losing his family. Finally realizing what he has become and how much he has turned his back on his own family. Rocky is stunned and absolutely speechless and goes out in search of their own son, admitting his mistakes and that he is by far the most important person to him in his life. Father and son together again as Tommy Gunn's title shot is set. Facing off against Union Kane, the man Balboa was set to fight, and well, it's an easy night for Tommy as he destroys the newly crowned champion. And which is hinted at early on in the film, George Washington Duke tells his fighters he will fight how he tells them, when he tells them, letting us know it's most likely Duke told Kane to throw the fight so he could set his plan in motion. Tommy is crowned the champion, but in his speech, thanks to one man who made it all happen, his promoter, Duke, and not Rocky. The crowd boos and reminds him who their champion truly is, chanting Rocky's name. Duke tells Tommy if he wants his respect, the only way is in the ring with his former mentor, teacher versus student, old lion versus young lion. Rocky and Paulie are at Andy's bar as Tommy and crew turn up, calling out Balboa to fight him. Rocky just shrugs it off, telling Tommy he's only using you so both of us will fight. And for the first time, Paulie sticks up for Rocky, letting Tommy know he's the real champ and you're just a damn joke. Tommy, angered by this, drops Paulie with one blow. And now it's on like Donkey Kong, as Balboa claims, "My ring's outside." Now there are fans out there who claim Rocky should have fought in the ring. Well, I hate to say it, you're all stupid. He fights in the ring, Duke wins. This is why the street brawl is perfect, and it's the way the film needed to play out. Broadcasting the challenge live on air, well, it's now turned into a live bout between Rocky and Tommy Gunn. They duke it out in the streets in front of Mickey's old gym. It isn't long before Balboa's injuries begin to arise as flashbacks of the torment Drago's beating gave him, and also reminding us of the injuries he has endured over all the films. Tommy finally drops Rocky with a brutal headshot. Blood streams from his nose and mouth, and people, in the original idea, this is when Rocky was going to die. Yes, he was gonna die in this film. And many said it would have been artistic and would have made the film amazing. But if they did that, no Rocky Balboa, no Creed, and no Creed 2. So to fix this issue, Stallone needed a reason for Rocky to fight on. Enter the amazing Burgess Meredith. We recall Mickey's haunting words of him being this angel on his shoulder. And yeah, it's heartwarming seeing Mickey again there overwatching Rocky. The theme kicks in as he arises. No longer in a boxing match, this is now a full-on street brawl. Balboa starts using elbows and illegal shots, letting Tommy know, "I trained you as a boxer, but I'm an all-round goddamn warrior." Adrian and their son arrive seeing the brutality on TV, worried about her husband's life. As for his son, he's just there to watch him beat the living shit out of Tommy Gunn for what he has done to them. Rocky digs deep as we start to hear the cracking of Tommy's ribs as Rocky unloads body after body, then blasts him away, ending the bout. In another deleted scene, Rocky throws out a hand to Tommy, both showing a sign of respect. I kinda wish they kept this in, as it showed both men, they didn't hate each other. There was a sign of respect. Tommy was never the bad guy, just misled. George Washington Duke takes a dig at Balboa and claims if he even lays a hand on him, he's gonna sue. Rocky pauses, then thinks like all of us, screw it. Bam! And uppercuts that asshole onto the roof of a car, reminding him, hey, sue me for what? I've lost everything, dumbass. Rocky in once again, yes, set to be the final scene with him, runs up the stairs of the Philadelphia Art Museum with his son overlooking his own statue. He passes on the necklace given to him by Mickey to his son, and the film ends with Elton John's song Measure of a Man plays us out and reminds us of all 5 Rocky films. It was the perfect way to end, but yes, we are far from done. This was by far the greatest credit sequence in the whole goddamn saga. The music fits so perfectly well with all the scenes and reminds us how great this storyline has been over all 5 Rocky films. And yes, that is Rocky 5, people. And yes, hate me for it, but I love it. I can see many people's issues with the film, and yes, there are some. But him owning a robot, that seems to be okay. But this whole film, it just gets hated upon. Stallone himself even hates the film, and I think it's Hollywood's most misunderstood film. He grounds the character again and doesn't just bring in another supervillain for Rocky to fight. Overall, to me, and people will disagree, it's a solid 7 out of 10. But some scenes here, they are just a perfect 10. The scenes with Mickey and Adrian, they are done with just so much care and heart. And the acting across the whole board, it is just amazing. Sage Stallone is great here as Robert Balboa. The late Tommy Morrison, who plays Tommy Gunn, to me, he's just perfect the way he portrays it. Overall, I think it's a popular opinion to hate this film. I, for one, love it. I'm not telling you you should have to. However, I'm asking you just to give this film another chance. So thank you for watching, people. Next time we jump a 15-year gap as we get the film no one ever expected to happen with Rocky Balboa. So I hope you enjoyed this review, people. Be sure, if you have the time, give us a like, and you know what, share to any other Rocky fans. And if you wish to see more content like this, please be sure to subscribe. And then tune in next week for the final in the Rocky series, Rocky Balboa. You have been watching Film Fridays only on the OBN network.